Hi guys, Don here. Today we're going to go over the webinar course, and I want to go through all the details here. So I'm going to get right into it. Basically, I'm going to go first over the explanation, and then I'm going to walk you through and show you all the technology that's needed to do this. So let's kind of get going here. Basically, I want to talk about using webinars for patient engagement and also for profit in your practice. And this is something that we've been using in our practice for a number of months, and it's worked really well. And I want to go through some of the pitfalls and some of the things that we've learned. Basically, I want to show you how to set up a webinar, how to learn the technology, and how to use it to get referrals and media exposure, and then use it to record and repurpose it for social media. So the whole goal is that you could do one of these and have it repurposed in the future. And that's kind of what we want to go over today. Any disclosures, I do own this Podiatry Practice Mastery, where these courses will be available for purchase in the future for those that want to go deeper or want to get help. So let's start here. Our experience with doing webinars, it kind of came in a roundabout way. Basically, the story was I was already doing a local television program. It's called Healthy Living. And I started to do that a few years ago at the local television station. And then COVID happened, and I didn't want to go to the television station, but I wanted to keep on doing these interviews. But what we really liked to do was doing public speaking. I think all of us, whenever we get invited to do a grand round somewhere or get invited to speak somewhere, it's fun because we can share something that we're already doing every day, and there usually is a captive audience. And we thought about this. We'll say, well, let's try to do this for our patients. Basically, we didn't have an office that had a large enough room to hold 30 or 40 people. And we thought about doing it in our office, but then we thought, well, since everyone's kind of getting used to Zoom, let's try to do it on Zoom. And so we made some mistakes, and we kind of learned throughout the process. And I want to kind of go through and share a little bit with you. And our first one that we did, there's a couple of that we did. The most recent one was all about Achilles tendonitis. We're doing one currently all about flat feet. We did one all about bunions. And we just take some of these main topics. What my recommendation would be is whatever main topics you are advertising on your website that you really like to do. Could be ingrown toenails, it could be bunions. You do the webinar on those topics because that's something you're already passionate about. That kind of brought us to this progression of doing the webinars. And then we did make some mistakes. You can see this one here. Do you see how there's that sideline here right on this video? And the reason for this little sideline isn't because I wanted to put this on here. It's because I recorded everyone's image during the broadcast, and I didn't want to show everyone that image. I didn't want everyone's image to be seen on there. So if you look at some of my first ones, I didn't record it the right way, but I still wanted to make use of the video afterwards. So I'm going to go over some of the mistakes that we made. So hopefully you don't have to do that. And basically this is for you if you want to provide valuable content to your patients, which all of us want to do. If you want more content for your website, this has been really valuable on those same pages. For example, we're advertising plantar fasciitis, for example. We can put the webinar there for a replay for the patients. And those that are interested, they'll watch a 45-minute webinar on the topic, and they'll be pre-educated for when they come in. If you enjoy teaching and educating, if you want an easy way to train new doctors and staff, this was an added bonus. When we started to do these, we realized these would really help our staff as we're training them about these topics, because they don't get to see us. A lot of times, if you don't have staff in your treatment room with you, they don't see all the magic of how you explain things, of your personality. And we found that if during our training period of our staff, they can watch these presentations and they can learn more about the conditions that we're helping them out, that we're helping the patients with. And also for new doctors. Specifically, we have a new doctor, and we seem like we're out there. And so this doctor, he had some opportunity to shadow us, but when you have a webinar, the more experienced doctors and how they explain things, that can be of great help. And so that can be recorded. And it's a lot different. So for example, my partner, Neil, in the office, he is great at explaining conditions. And so a lot of times we'll use him to explain about the kind of the causes of plantar fasciitis, for example. That whole spiel, if I just ask him how he explains it, he doesn't quite know. But when he's on Spotlight, on a webinar, he's much more natural, just as if he's speaking to his patient. So it's a good way to train the other doctors. And it's also good for you if you want more social media content. A lot of us need this. And so what you can do, and what we did afterwards, is we actually took the 45-minute webinar and we cut it into segments. So each segment, each question that we answered in the webinar, we cut into individual segments. So we could have, for example, all about Achilles tendonitis part 1, part 2, part 3, part 4, because a 45-minute webinar, sometimes they won't listen to, but if you can divide up the individual questions, it can make it a lot easier. And that's something easy to do with Fiverr if you don't have the skills, and we'll teach you about that. So imagine this giving great content to patients, repurposing your content, and answering their most important questions. This was one of the neat benefits to it. When people register, we use this thing called Calendly, and I could ask them the question. If they're going to sign up for flat feet, what is your question about flat feet? What do you want to know about? So then we can make sure we add that to the presentation, to our slide deck. So we're going to go over the technology. We're going to go over the actual webinar process, what's needed before, during, and after, and then who can do it for you. And then that'll be the first portion. And then the second portion, we're going to dive really deep into the details. You'll probably get bogged down with those things. You don't have to memorize everything because everything is right here. And there will be a kind of a written transcript and some other types of resources that you can refer to. And I've made a couple of kind of templates that can help you to design your own webinar as well, if you want to know the different sections and the different topics. So let's look here at the technology. So these are a couple of the things that I want to talk to you about. The first, that's most important, even before you develop your webinar, is you have to make sure you have access to your email list. This doesn't do well doing, for example, an AdWords campaign. Okay, they don't know you, that no one really wants to watch a webinar. If you're doing it's going to be a waste of your ad money. What you need is an email list, and I can show you. We have a list of about 30,000 people in our office, and we send out this webinar, and we get about 40 or 50 people on the individual topic that want to listen to us. So the email list is key, and I'll be showing you later on how you can get access. I use Athena. I can kind of show you how I do it through there, but yours has to be similar. Basically, you write up a little email blast and say, hey, I'm doing this webinar. Do you want to be part of it? And I put a link. The link, the registration link, I do it via Calendly. I don't just send out the link, the Zoom link. Okay, I use this Calendly. And if you look, this is what the Calendly looks like on the bottom right-hand corner here. It says all about Achilles tendonitis, 45-minute webinar, and they're going to get the conferencing details when they sign up. And here you can see here, join us on Tuesday, December 8th at 7 p.m., where we're going to talk about Achilles tendon. Then they choose the proper date. And when they choose it, they get an email confirming and also giving them the information. But the neat thing about Calendly is also sends them reminders, because just because someone signs up for a webinar doesn't mean that they're going to show up. And what Calendly does, it'll send them a reminder a couple days before, 1 day before, a half hour before, and it has a cool function where it can actually send them a text message to remind them as well. Because if they signed up for it, even though they signed up, they might not show up. Okay, and then even afterwards, I have it kind of linked to a blog that I did. And initially in the blog, I'll have the sign up link, but then after the event is over, I'll put the actual video there if they want to watch it afterwards. In terms of how to do the actual slides for the webinar, you can see my slides here on the left-hand side here. These are the slide deck for Achilles tendonitis, the typical questions. This is a slide deck that I developed on Google Slides. I think Google Slides is a lot easier because then you can send it to the doctors and they can all put in their own individual sections, and then someone kind of makes it look pretty. The one that makes it look pretty is called Fiverr.com. Basically what you do, and I will include here a link to the person that I use at Fiverr, and I think I pay them $20 with maybe a little $2 fee, and they make it look beautiful. They don't do the original logo that we did. We did that on Canva, Canva, which is really easy to do, and but they lay it out, they do the color scheme, they make it look pretty, and you send it them. You need a few days to do that, but Fiverr works really great for laying out your slides. So you don't have to do all of these things. You just have someone else do them for you. You kind of need the basic content. A lot of times I'll just send them slides with just the basic topics and questions, and they lay it out and makes it look really, really professional, and it's worth the $20. And then Zoom is the technology that we use. You could use another one, but the neat thing about Calendly is it links to the Zoom as well. So it actually links and invites them and sends you an email confirmation. You can see the questions, and it's kind of a seamless procedure on how to do the technology. But before you even get into all the technology, I want to talk about the before section. And we're going to go a little bit more into detail a little bit later on this, but you need to determine your topic. And I would recommend the topics that you're interested in, what you're passionate about, what your patients are asking you about. It could be plantar fasciitis, Achilles tendonitis, could be warts, anything that there's an interest in it. Determine the date that you want to do it, or dates. We tend to do it every other month on the first Tuesday in the evening. That's the time that we found was easiest for us. We wanted to do it at about 7 p.m. We want to do it every other month, because every month was a little bit overwhelming for the docs, because you have to develop a new slide deck at least the first time you do them. Once you get through them, you could repeat them because there's a new audience. You need to include the slide deck and including the questions. The questions are the things that they ask you. Either they've asked you in the past or what they ask when they're registering on the Calendly link. And then you have to send out these invitations. So we do so invitation is different than a reminder. The invitation is the email. So we send it out via email and text via our medical record. We send it out at 2 weeks, 1 week, and 3 days before, and then the day of the event. That's what we do. And the text message. During some housekeeping items, just to keep, because these are some mistakes that we made. All the doctors should get there 15 minutes before. So if it starts at 7 or 7:30, it should be there, let's say 6:45. I think that's important, especially to have some staff there to help as well. Maybe your office manager, because if it's just up to the doc, sometimes we get distracted when we're talking. Start on time. This is something that's very awkward. So if it starts at 7, I leave a waiting room open, and I don't let people in until 7, and then we start. I don't let people in early because it's just kind of an awkward position. There is a webinar function on Zoom if you want to do that, so no one can see who else is there. We do one where you can see each other, you can see the other people, but there is a webinar function on Zoom if you want to purchase that. Delegate a co-host to receive questions. We have our office manager on there, and we introduce her and we change the name, and questions can be addressed to her so she can answer and field all the questions. We allow questions. Usually we include the questions in the portion of the talk that we developed with the ones that were asked prior. The ones after, we ask them at the end, and we record that portion as well. We share the slides on the Zoom, basically the same way I'm doing this right now. And you have to remember to hit record. That's a key, because you want to record this so you can save it. Even if it's not perfect, you can edit it. And then in terms of modes, what you want this to be on is speaker mode. There's 2 options, and I'll show you that link in the future. But basically on Zoom, there's a little place you can do, I think it's grid mode, where it shows everyone, or you can do like the speaker mode. And I find speaker mode is better, and then you can, so it doesn't show everyone else that's in the webinar. Otherwise you have to make one of those awkward little covers to cover people's faces, because we didn't want their faces to be on there. I mute everyone except myself. That's key in muting everyone except the doctors. Now, one person has to be the DJ. Only one person can share the screen. So you have to determine who's going to share the screen. Not every doctor, if you have multiple doctors, are going to do it. And I think it's just like a regular event. I'm usually the MC of the event, and I'll introduce my other colleagues. I'll introduce them. I'll welcome them. I'll welcome the guests. I'll tell them kind of what they're going to expect. And then I'll say, we're going to answer questions at the end. So that's kind of the during process. And then the after process is after the event. We email the slides and the recording to those that missed it. What I do is I upload them to my blog, and there's a kind of a neat way with Google Slides. You can actually publish them, and I can show you how to do this later on. You can publish them to the web so they can't download them. And basically all you're doing is it's just like a slide deck that they can't, I guess they could screen capture each and every one, but they can't download the whole PowerPoint. That's a really neat function if you want to kind of hide your slides and not have everyone have access to them. So you can send them the slides so they can look at them, and you can also send them the actual video. And if you want, you could, for example, do a sign up sheet to get it, or an email to get it, or something like that. I add it to the website section. Oh, I talked here also about for those that missed. So let's say someone signed up for it and they weren't able to participate. After, it can give a couple of emails as well. This Calendly does it automatic, and I'll send them a link to that blog, and then I'll upload it to that section. Then afterwards as well, you edit the video into sections and you put it on YouTube. You put like the full length one, and then you put individual sections based on the question. That's what I found excellent. And then we give it out also as patient education information. We use something called Patient Education Genius. I think it's I don't know, it's so much per month per provider. But what it is you can, those individual questions they have or the webinar, you can actually send them a link to that, and it works really nice for, let's say someone comes in for Achilles tendonitis and you don't want to spend 45 minutes explaining it and all the complications and surgical treatments. You can just send them out that webinar and they can watch that at their leisure. Patients really appreciate that. And then if you think about some follow-up marketing, if you do a great talk, one, you can invite people, you can invite other people. Let's say with Zoom, normally we have 100 slots. We don't typically fill those with our patients, so we can send it out to physical therapy places, invite the physical therapists, invite primary cares, invite referring doctors, invite shoe stores, and they can participate or have their staff participate to learn more. And then you also can send it out afterwards to them. You can send them the recording, you can send them the slides so they can review that at their leisure if they can't participate in the actual webinar. So there's a lot of groundwork, and a lot of this can be automated. It can be done real quick, so you don't have to be doing all this stuff. I think it's real important for us because we're busy seeing patients. You have to figure out who can do this for you. You shouldn't do this. You may have to figure it out the first time, but then you need to train an office manager. Do you have your manager set everything up? Basically, they set up the schedule and tell you, okay, we're going to do this month 1, month 3, month 5. What we do at our office meeting, we do our office meetings once a week on Thursday mornings at 7 in the morning. And we talk amongst the doctors. We have this list, and we have kind of a running list of what we're going to be talking about in future months. And then everything is done asynchronous. Basically, we put the slides up there. Everyone contributes to the slides on Google Slides, and then we're ready for the event, basically. You could also use a virtual assistant. I use Fiverr, Fiverr, or Fancy Hands. Those are 2 services, and I'll put links here so you can have these resources, but those work great in terms of getting things done. Fiverr does like the slide development and things like that. And then you can also give this to a doctor that has more time and ability, maybe a younger doctor, a more high-tech doctor, that they want to do this. They might not be the best at explaining things, but they're going to be the best at kind of organizing things. And then you figure out, like for the doctors, you can see I have a fake background here. You can use a fake background, real background. Make sure you work on the lighting for the doctors. You might want to do a test run prior on how to do this. These are some of the reference links that I talked about. Calendly.com is where you set up the actual event. Zoom is where you host the event and you transmit it. Fiverr, they do a lot of this back work for me. For example, they design my slides, and they can do a lot of these little projects that you need to do. Fancy Hands, they can do just tasks. Basically, they're 20-minute tasks. Whatever you need done, they can do them. And Google Slides is where you download you can do the slides and work asynchronistically. If you guys have any questions, you can email me at don@podiatrypracticemastery.com on how to do this. I'd like to go now into this group activity. Basically, what this group session is, this is something that we can do together and you can fill out. And this is to help you design your actual presentation. And basically what it is, if you just click this button, or I will include this link for you, and it will make a copy of the actual document. And so you don't have to use my actual document. And basically this is a webinar creator process, okay? And this is something that I put together to help you to do this. So in this document, all you're going to do is you're just going to fill it in. So what problems do you treat that are fun and exciting? Let me give you an example. You can do like Achilles tendonitis. You can put a couple more down. So these could be your future webinars. The best topic to start with, let's do Achilles. Okay. What's the best time and day? When would you like to do it? And when's the best time for your patients? You have to figure it out. Most of it's going to be the evening time. I've tried some during the noon hour and they don't really work as well for people just because everyone's working. Let's say if you want to do like 7 p.m. on Tuesday and you determine the frequency, we want to do it every other month. That's what we do. Okay. Define the problem, what you have. And what I'm just walking you through is what you're going to explain in the slides. You may already know how to do these, and I'll give you a couple of examples of some of my slides, but you have to define like what is Achilles tendonitis. Okay. Achilles is this, and what picture you're going to use. So you may want to use like a picture of a foot with an inflamed Haglund's or an Achilles, something like that. What causes the problem? You want to explain kind of what they have. You want to explain why they have it. Okay. And then showing also a picture. I think that's important. And then sharing a story. Patients really like stories. I find that when you're kind of explaining things, you want to may give a patient example. A couple of other things you could do. You can invite a patient that's had the condition or had the surgery and how they went through it. Giving actual patient testimonial can be really, really helpful for this. Let's say they had, for example, I had a patient recently, they had shockwave and amnio and a bulbous Achilles tendon. And it really made it feel better. It didn't make the bulbous thing totally go away, but all their pain was gone. So sharing a story or inviting a patient to share a story would be awesome for you. Next year, what are the treatment options? You can kind of go over that. For treatment options, we like to do, for example, there's not really treatment, but you can do like imaging. You might want to do reduce inflammation. You might want to do like support or reduce stress. Okay. And then you may want to do like, I don't know, like massage or PT, like EPAT or like surgery, just different things like that. What are the treatment categories? And so each one of those is going to have a separate slide. Once again, sharing a patient experience is important, including a treatment checklist. I like checklists. I just think they work better. And what you can do is you can go over all the treatments and then you can pull up this checklist and say, okay, in your specific case, we go over this with our patients. These are the options that may benefit you. And then I think it's also important to go over what are the costs in terms of time and the treatments. Okay. They want to know how long it's going to take them to get better. And just I know I don't know, but we roughly know if they've had it, if it's an acute injury, less than 3 months, it might take a month for them to get better or 2. If it's been over 3 months, you have to really get their expectations up. It may take 3 to 6 months for them to get better. And then in terms of, you can go over prices for some of these treatments or not, or you can say contact the office. Some are covered by insurance, some are not covered by insurance. And then really the common questions, these you're going to get from the actual presentation from the Calendly when they sign up for that. So this is kind of the webinar creation process. You can use this document. Once you fill it out, you can just print it and that'll kind of help guide you in doing the webinar and setting that up. Hi, Don here. I want to go a little bit deeper now into using webinars for patient engagement and profit. There was the first section, which just kind of gives a high level view of this. Now I'm going to dive a little bit deeper into some of the details for you, for those that are interested in actually doing this, and you might have some more questions. So I'm going to walk you through this, give you some examples, show you on my site, and then if you certainly want to ask me any questions, you can. So you need help diving deep into the webinar details. So let's go into the details. We're going to go over how to make thumbnails and kind of get examples. The Calendly, actually the wording example you're going to use in Calendly, PowerPoint lecture examples to use or repurpose. So I'll give you some of mine that you can use my color scheme. And I'm going to give you some Fiverr recommendations to who will lay out the slides for you, show you how to edit the videos really easily, and then automate the follow-up. And then show you how to add this to the patient education resources. So I want to start with this webinar creation framework. So this is a framework of what I do every time I do a webinar. And I just laid it out here, and it just kept on growing as we've been doing these over and over, just to make the process real simple for you. So you see here the webinar creation process. You have to determine a topic and time, develop the slides, what you have, why you have it, how you got it, what are the costs, what are the questions, the slide layout on Fiverr, and I'll give you some lecture examples, the webinar announcement, so that you have to announce this to people. Okay, so after you've made it, you have to announce this. Even before you can make it, you can announce it. How to make a thumbnail, Calendly, the website, the email, the social media. And there's one that's hidden under there. I'll show you. Email and text message reminders. And then a successful webinar toolkit. We're going to go over kind of starting tips, recording tips, questions, and then how to close the webinar. And then the post-webinar marketing process, which I think is one of the biggest benefit. If you don't repurpose these, that it's just kind of a waste of your time. But if you do repurpose it, it can be used for forever, basically, to produce more patient value. So how to automate it via Calendly, how to put it in your patient newsletter, put it on your YouTube, cut it up into smaller sections, put it on YouTube, social media, and how to use Fiverr for editing it, placing it on your website, distributing it to patient education, Genius, and then sending it out different places. So let's go here into the webinar creation process. Basically, we want to go over here what are the areas that you treat and that are exciting and fun for you. Is it plantar fasciitis? Is it nail fungus, dermatology, running or sports injuries? The first one I did was on ugly and ingrown toenails. It was a kind of a fun webinar. I think I had 40 people, and I still had people coming in because of that. And we put that on the sections of ingrown toenails and nail fungus on both sections. And I talked about Cariflex and Onifix and matrixectomies and all that other stuff. But in this case, we're going to pick one, which is called Achilles tendonitis, something that we see every single day. You get together with PowerPoint. We actually use Google Slides, okay, to do this. Here are some of the other ones that we did. We did one on plantar fasciitis. We're doing one on all about flat feet, all about bunions. And we just used these words. We're still kind of working on the wording, but I like this all about. It's or an approach to versus like, I know everything about this. We're not going to go over everything, but some things about it. And you have to get kind of terms that are interesting to people. The best time of the day, if you'd like to do it, what's the best time? We like it after clinic hours. We don't really like to use our weekends for this. Occasionally we'll do it like on a Saturday at 10 a.m. But usually we do it like on a Wednesday between 6 and 7 or 7 and 8. You have to figure out the best time for you in your clinic. The common questions, okay, so what is it? It's pain to the Achilles. How did I get it? A tight Achilles or core weakness or tightness or working out. How do I treat it? PT, stretching, heel lifts, icing, EPAT, amnio. The costs, if you had it for over 3 months, takes about 3 months, anywhere between $300 and $1,200 out of pocket, but the total might be more. One tip is when you're talking about finances, so there's an out-of-pocket expense and then there's an insurance coverage expense. I do go over roughly what it costs people because they like to know versus just saying, okay, it's you have Shockwave today, so it's 150. You have amnio, it's 1,500. You have orthotics, it's 550. I like to go kind of over a big number with them. So I'll say, you know, Mrs. Jones, it's usually $2,500. About half of that is covered by insurance, meaning your office visit, your x-rays, things like that. And the other half is usually paid by patients. Some it's less, some it's more. Okay. I think that's really important to go over that. And when you say the big amount and then you come down, it's a lot better for them to adjust to. And then some of the questions that we got for the Achilles one is, can I still work out? Will it go away? Is PT necessary? Will I need surgery? And then we address those in the individual sections of the actual slides. So the one that does slide layout for me, back in the day, his price was $10. So basically you can see here, design up to 10 slides. And then he actually includes some stock images. It's kind of a cool thing. He doesn't do any copywriting, or he doesn't write it for you. So this is the guy that I used on Fiverr. This is what their order looks like. A few things to look at when you're ordering Fiverr. You look at a level 2 is better than a level 1. And then you look at how many times this guy has done it. He's done it 904 times. So he's probably pretty good. He's probably pretty fast. And you can see he's got 4 in queue. Okay. It says 1 day. For me, it doesn't really matter. I'm not in that much of a rush, but this is how you do it. And so based on, if you want to do a standard, that might include 15 slides or 20 slides or things like that. Here is an example of some lecture examples. I'll put a little download here as well. You can download these if you want to use them on your own. It's a link to my Google Slides, and you can just copy mine and use them if you want on Achilles tendonitis. And but this is the template. He didn't make this template. He made some of it. It was I've had him do some other things in the past for my other presentations that I do, and I like the way he makes these little pictures and makes it nice and clear. You want to make sure you don't put too much wording on your slides. I think I tend to do too much wording, and patients, they like more images than words. Now I want to go over the webinar announcement process. So how you're going to announce this to people, specifically your patients. So how do you make the thumbnails? The first thing when you're going to announce it, you need a thumbnail. Basically, a thumbnail is just an image. So what we did with this one is we took the same color scheme as our logo, and we talked about all about Achilles tendonitis. I did a couple of these. One actually has the date and the time on it, and the other one doesn't. The evergreen one, basically, this is the one that I put on YouTube afterwards, and I put it in my different mailings. If I'm the original one that I'm sending out to get people to come, I'll put the date and time in it. The one that does it is actually my wife. She does this for us, canva.com. It's super easy, and you can do it, make free images, and it's pretty neat. Okay, that's what I would use. If you need someone, you could also go to fiverr.com, and they would also have someone that can do this. And you can easily make them in Google Slides. For a lot of my slides, what I do is I actually make them in Google Slides. If you want to see how I do that, let me just show you here how to do that. So in terms of Google Slides, you see here I have thumbnails. So I use this for my thumbnail creation. Basically, I made a thumbnail. So for example, here's one, my thumbnail for Ask Dr. Pelto, my thumbnail for the little tips I'm doing on Athena. And then within Google Slides, you just click up here, you do File, Download, JPEG, and then you just upload it to whatever video you're doing. So you can do it right here, or you can do it somewhere else. I just find doing it in Google Slides works best. And so here, these are also all my patient presentations on different topics that I do. And we'll have another presentation that talks about how to use those. But I think that's the easiest kind of process for you to do this. Okay. So let's kind of go on here. So Fiverr, once again, they can do those things for you as well. Fiverr, you pay them a few bucks and they'll do that. The next is the Calendly registration. So Calendly is this thing that you put the information into, and then you send this link out to the patient. So basically you put your logo up top, you can do your picture. It sends it from me, all about Achilles tendonitis, 45 minutes. What are the newest, easiest, and best treatments for Achilles tendonitis? Join us on Tuesday, December 8th at 7 p.m. where we're going to go over the different treatments, surgical and non-surgical, in this 45-minute Zoom webinar. So it's everything they can expect, and they just pick the date. It's pretty easy to do. I wanted to give you the wording here. If you want the wording, I think that's key. You don't need me to read this. You can kind of look at it, but this is the wording that we used. A couple of key things to note is that they have to pick on the calendar the date. And then you also have to say space is limited because we only have 100 slots. And then also some patients, they don't want to join. They just want to be seen. And so if you need an appointment, call them at this number. Okay. Here is the actual form that they fill out. What you see here, it's kind of small, and I'll show you. I'll go to the actual site in a second, but you can put the name, the email, and do you have a question? And I leave this optional, so they don't have to fill it out, but the name and email is required. And then I put a disclaimer in here, and I think this is important. This webinar is not intended to be a substitute for professional medical diagnosis, advice, or treatment by a trained physician. Seek the advice of your physician or qualified healthcare provider, and then they have to agree to that. Okay, so that's how you do the Calendly thing. So before I go onto the website, let me show you how to do the Calendly. Okay, so I have my Calendly opened up right here, and this is the back end of Calendly, but let me show you the front end. So here's the front end of Calendly, basically all about flat feet. Same wording exactly, what it's going to look like. We're going to go over flat feet for adults and children. Once you register, you can include a question, click on the day, space is limited. If you have an urgent problem, here's the day. They click it, they pick the time, they confirm the time, and it asks them for their name, their email, and the question, and they agree. It has this neat thing right here that you can send a text message reminder. This is neat because they can get reminded of it. It sends it automatically via text message. Let me show you on this end right here. This is where you design it. And so my event is on. This is the one, what's the event? It's all about flat feet. And this is where I put in the wording that I just went over. It gives it a name. I put the max at 130 people for this because, you know, it only has 100, but everyone doesn't ever come. Okay, so that's how you set it up. I set it up on Zoom, and you link this with your Zoom account. Okay, so it automatically sends everyone the same exact link for the event, and that's that portion. When they can book, I only pick one time, which is basically February 9th from 7 to 8 p.m. That's the only thing that's available in this whole calendar. And you just basically, the way you click it, and you just edit the dates, and you just pick the exact time of how to do that. There's a buffer time that doesn't really matter for this. Going down to the invitee questions, you put your name, your email. This little star up top means it's required. Here's, do you have a question you would like answered? And then that's optional. And this is that disclaimer I talked about. There's a lot of cool workflows in here if you want to learn, but you can apply different types of workflows of when you can send an email to yourself when someone registers. I get an email. You can do reminders, but the easiest way is actually these notifications. Basically, it's an email confirmation, and you can personalize this: email cancellation, email reminders, which we use, email follow-up. So it'll send them a follow-up email afterwards. And then text reminders. This is really cool. You pay a little bit more for this. I think it's maybe $5 or $10 a month to do this, but it's really beneficial. It gets more people to come. And confirmation page, it just sends them an automated confirmation page, and they can see my website. And then if you wanted to, you could even charge for this. So if you wanted to accept payment with PayPal, you could do that. So that's how Calendly works. It's a pretty kind of intuitive, neat thing here. Okay, so let's go now to the website. And so once the Calendly's done, I put a little blog on my website. And on the website, I put that link. Here's the date. Here is basically, I just copied and pasted the other thing, but I put the registration link right here. And then I put here, you're going to get a video to watch the replay afterwards, because a lot of people can't participate. They'll register, they can't go there, but they can actually go back to this website and watch it afterwards. I will show you once again exactly how I did this on our website. Here's the website. It's just a blog, basically, all about flat feet. Here's the logo. Here's what I just wrote in there. Here's the registration link. If they click the registration link, it brings them right to Calendly. And then after the event, I'm going to change that blog to something else with the actual replay on there. Okay. Email blasts. These are the way we do the email blasts to patients. We do email and text message, and these sends them to all the patients. So Central Mass Podiatry, all about Achilles tendonitis. You don't need to read this, but it's basically an abbreviated thing. And then the sign up to Calendly. That's how we do the email blast for our patients. Before I go into the social media, I want to go to show you how we do the email. We use something called Athena. Okay. And right in here, you can see all about flat feet. This is the one that we're doing. You can copy it if you want to do another one. And basically what you're going to see, it was sent to 30,000 people. Okay. And that's kind of who it goes to. So it's kind of a neat way of sending it to all of our patients. I think currently, and it sends it out over time. It's not all at once. And then in there, you can edit kind of what's being said and everything else with this. I don't know if I might not be able to edit this as it's active. For some reason, it's not opening up. But that's where we do it within our Athena, with our campaigns, our custom campaigns within Athena. And so let's go back here. That's the email blast to your patients. Social media, basically, I took that same link and I included it with the same wording in the same link. It sends it to my LinkedIn, to our Twitter, to our Facebook. And this is all done via Hootsuite. If you don't use anything to automate this, use Hootsuite, or you can find a Who to do this for you. but that's kind of how we made it. It's all the same content, just repurposing it. It's all automated for every event. It's really easy to do. You can set up multiple posts. We don't get that many coming from social media. It was more from our list that's more important. Here's the email reminders. These are the things I just showed you in Calendly, how we have those turned on and the text messages returned that are on as well. So I want to go over to have a successful webinar, you need some tips here, and that's what I want to go over right now, how to have a successful webinar. So let's go into this. For a successful webinar, first of all, enable the waiting room for guests. Let them stay out there. Keep the name of the event. I'll ask the speakers and staff to arrive 15 minutes early. Start on time. Don't let people come in early just because it's kind of an awkward silence. Try to keep to the time. If you've said 30 minutes or 40 minutes, we usually do 30 minutes and then 10 or 15 minutes for questions. Don't admit people. You have to have a host, okay? Someone that's going to be organizing things, and welcome everyone and say that the questions will be at the end, and then share the slides on Zoom. Those are the key, and then record. I don't know if I put record. Let's go now. Hit record at the beginning of the session. That's key. Let everyone know it's going to be recorded, but their faces aren't going to show up unless you make a mistake like I did, and I had to put a badge to hide everyone. Make sure it says speaker view. So when you click view, it's going to say gallery view or speaker view. You want the speaker view, and you want to spotlight the speaker. So that's the only one that's being recorded. And then you want to mute everyone else. That's key. Include questions that are asked before the presentation in that section. So in actual slides, I included the questions that people sent me on Calendly. When you get your email responses from Calendly, I just want to show you this. This is something important. So for example, if you go to my Gmail, I have a little link here that says Calendly, okay? Within Calendly, you can see these are all the people that are attending my Flatfoot lecture. And then when they attend it, there's a place they can ask a question down here, but there's no question. There's nothing in there, okay? So they don't have any question, but if they do, I would include that in the actual webinar, okay? Have one person receive questions at the end of the presentation. They can either ask them or write them, and then have a way that they can chat to speak or ask a question or make an appointment. Closing the webinar, thank everyone for their participation. Let them know a copy will be sent to them in a few days. That's key because a lot of them won't be able to be there. We use this Calendly email post-event function, and then ask them to contact the office for a question or to make an appointment. That's key as well because some people don't want to ask publicly these things. Finally, I want to talk about the post-webinar marketing process. This is kind of the most exciting part, is how you can reutilize this. So you do one webinar and you can use it forever. And that's what I want to share. So basically, it has an email follow-up function on Calendly, and it'll send them an email afterwards, okay? You can put it in a newsletter, so don't mind my face here, but we do a monthly webinar video newsletter. So I do this, here you can see I use Prezi, sometimes I use Zoom, but basically instant replay of all about Achilles tendonitis, and I'll put a little link underneath it. And so they get I do a little 3-minute video, and then I put some links underneath there, and they can rewatch that replay. If you click here, it actually goes to, this is my newsletter. And then underneath the newsletter, I'm going to put a little link to the replay, and it'll go right here to this replay, which is a 60-minute video where we're talking about all about Achilles tendonitis and the different doctors talking about it. So if you want to look at that, I'll include a link to that webinar. So that's the full webinar. Yeah, had 175 views. Okay. So let's keep going here. That's the newsletter. I put it on the YouTube. I just showed you that. And then you can cut it. So this I paid someone at Fiverr to do because I didn't have the patience to do it. And I think I paid them 10 or 20 bucks, and they divided it based on questions. So all about bunions, what causes a bunion, shoe choices, bunion surgery, recovery, what about cortisone injections, and then some of the questions. And that was really a neat thing because people are willing to watch a 6-minute video and not so much a 50-minute video. And then those little sections you can also send to social media, meaning just posting those out as well. Video editing, this is the person that I used, and I'll include a link to this gentleman, but I don't know, he's done it 49 times. He cuts videos up got 5-star ratings. So he seemed to do a good job when I've had him do things. You have to just be clear what you want them to do. So what I do a lot of times is I'll give them the questions and where I want them to cut. Place it on the website. So afterwards, let's say currently I'm going to be doing this on flat feet. And then I'm going to actually put that on the section on our website. So let me show you. There's 2 places I will put it afterwards. So on our website, on Central Mass Podiatry, first of all, we're going to do one on flat feet. So here is our flat feet one that we're going to do. This is advertising it. Okay. But once we finish, it's going to go right here. So for example, bunions and hammer toes. Here's what's the difference. Hey, look at that. There is the webinar that we did on bunions. And so if you click play, it's a 49-minute webinar. We talk about shoe choices. We talk about bunion surgery. We talk about how to stay off your foot after surgery. And then we answer different questions. And here's our little faces up top here. So that's kind of how that works afterwards. Okay. And then you do that on that section. And then you can place the slides. This is kind of a neat function I wanted to show you. So you hit file and you can't see it. This might go away in a second, but it says publish to the web. This is cool. Okay. So what you do is, let me just show you here. I can actually do it. So all about flat feet, file, publish to the web. So what this does is when you publish it to the web, you hit click and yes, I want to publish this section. So this is going to be my flat foot lecture. The neat thing is you can take this link, okay, and patients can't download it. So what it's going to look like is this. And you can see slide 1, all the slides here, slide 2, but they can't download them. So that's kind of a neat thing that you can do within Google Slides, is how to do that so they can't have access to it. And then finally, I put this on Patient Education Genius. So what this is a resource that I use to share my patient education information. This is my favorite thing. I have a lot of favorite things, but what it is, all the diagnosis is on the left side. This is all about Achilles tendonitis. It's a webinar, and I can send that to them with Patient Education Genius. For those of you that are curious, I'll show you how to do that. And this actually links to my medical record, but I'm just going to sign in this way to make it easier for you to see. And it has a couple of cool things. PatientEducationGenius.com is kind of like their website. And I want to show you. Once I log in here, usually what happens is when I log in for my medical record, it actually pulls in the patient's email and phone number. So I can either email them the information or text message them. So for example, I've talked about, here's my healthy living videos. Here's a doctor I refer to. Here's something on Chi running. But basically, if you go down to Achilles tendonitis, that section, it'll pull it up and I can choose certain patient information. So all about Achilles tendonitis. Here's a little patient handout. Here's some information on Shockwave. I hit send and I can either put their email or a phone number in there and it'll send it to them. But the cool thing is it's going to ask them for, give them the information. It's going to remind them, but it's also going to ask them for an online review afterwards. That's kind of cool. Okay. So that Patient Education Genius is great for that. Then you can also send it out to shoe stores and PCPs. This is an example. I just sent it. Hey, I sent out the invitation to 10,000 people yesterday. Looks like none of them clicked to sign up. So that's the sign up, but I also send them the actual link afterwards. This is my friend that is a physical therapist. Okay, so that's going over this whole process. Happy creating. What you're going to find here is all the links to these people that are referred to at Fiverr, these different other things that you can incorporate. If you feel like you still need more help, let me know. I'd like you to maybe book a kind of a strategy call, and I can see how I can help you. Or if you need more hands-on help, we can get that as well for you. Okay. Thank you, guys.